Okay, I'm finished routing my things that I made a pretty bad mistake, and I can correct it, but you know, we learn from our mistakes. But as you can see, I've gone too far in this groove. The first groove that I made, I didn't have my tape on there correctly, and I've gone too far and past the corner. Now the way it should look is like this, where the corners now are round. Now what we need to do is square those corners off. And I just take my razor knife and this takes a little practice, but sort of get used to it after a while. Square up my corners. Sometimes you need chisel, but in this case I didn't. The piece came right out. So I'll do that with all the corners. Okay, we'll come over here to my totally messy workbench, and you'll see that I hope you can see, drawn a line right in the middle of this and right in the middle of that. So that's exactly in the center this way, that's exactly in the center that way. What I'm going to do is cut my banding. I want to decide where I want the corners to be and where I want the centerpiece to be, so that they line up on a solid piece of wood rather than in the middle, so that the whole thing is balanced when I'm finished. Now I'm just going to mark this banding with a rule and a knife, and I'm going to mark it just a little oversized, actually, just a tad longer, and we'll make it shorter later. We don't want to cut it too short, because once you cut it too short you can't make it longer. Okay. That. They're in here. Okay, and that's going to fit right there like that. I'm going to make 8 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces. And after I get those 8 pieces cut, we'll come back and I'll show you how to make them fit perfect. Okay, I've marked each one of these pieces as to its appropriate place. I've actually numbered them. I've got a 1 here and a 1 on one of these, and all the way up to 8. Okay. So I've got to find number 1 right now. Number 1 is going to go in there. I'm going to just touch that corner with a little 45-degree guide I've put on my disc sander, and it makes a perfect 45-degree flat angle. And then after I do that, I'm going to fit it in here to make sure it fits correctly. And then I'm going to sand this end with 90 degree to get it to fit perfectly so it butts up against the other one correctly. Okay, I've got all my pieces cut. I'm going to glue them in there. And this is just tight bond glue, and I have to get the same pieces in the same slots so they fit right. And glue those babies all in there. Now, the reason I'm boring you with this is we're going to correct that error that we made a while ago, and we have to do it now, because if we don't do it now, wait for the glue to dry, we'll have a problem. Oh man, doesn't want to go in there. Sometimes they fit too good and they don't want to go into the slots very easily. But we'll get them in there. Brute force, if nothing else. Okay. When I was sanding, I made some dust. This is walnut dust. And I've got some ebony dust, some black dust. This is just dust from sanding I saved. And I've mixed a little together because this walnut's a little darker than normal walnut dust. I'm going to use some regular Elmer's white glue all. I'm going to make a paste. Paste, and we're going to fill those corners where we made a mistake. And all that excess will sand off later. Okay, so. Okay, you just need to put this in a caul with the wax paper again, let it set up for about a half an hour, and then we can sand it off. One thing I wanted to point out was when you're routing these channels, you have to make sure that the banding fits. You definitely don't want to have the channel wider than the banding. If the channel is narrower than the banding, some bandings maybe just slightly over. In this case, I was using a 1/2-inch router bit. Some of the bandings may be slightly wider, or your router bit may be a little narrower than you need, so you'll have to take a second pass. But you don't want to move the fence. What you should probably do would be to add some pieces of masking tape or some kind of tape to the edge so that it makes it further, a bit further from the fence than it was before, widening the channel a little bit. Okay, I've inlaid the cross banding on the top using the same procedure as I inlaid the decorative banding, and as you can see, it comes out with the two white stripes as well as the cross-banded walnut in there. I then glued the top to the box, and I have an enclosed box now that does not open at this point. I sanded the sides using a stationary belt sander. You could use a regular belt sander, I suppose, but a stationary one's easier. Now, as you notice, I've got these little tiny holes in here from where I dadoed the sides so the bottom would fit in, and then ended up with these little tiny holes. And what I'm going to do is I've cut a stick the same width and height as these holes. I'm going to put those in there, cut that off, and sand those off, and it's end grain just like the end grain of the box joint, so you won't even see that stick when it's done.